Nicaragua is the second poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. Education is supposed to be a priority, and yet roughly 51% of children aren't getting a primary education. So graduation, even from preschool, is a very special day. So I was getting ready to go and stay with a small coffee farmer in the north of Nicaragua. Threw a couple of notebooks and pencils into my bag. Gave these two little girls notebooks and pencils, and the girls' faces lit up. But it was the father's reaction. I mean, he looked at his daughter and his face just lit up. He said, "Now that you have a notebook and pencil, you can go to school this year." So this was this little 8-year-old girl who wasn't going to get a chance to go to school because she didn't have a notebook and a pencil. It opened up an entirely new world for me. I couldn't believe it. Huddled together at a little desk, working on which schools we were going to go to, working on what supplies we were going to deliver, dreaming about building schools and dreaming about a future of education for kids. We were working in a number of communities handing out school supplies, and the need for schools and school buildings and infrastructure was so apparent. These kids were going to school in what was a shack that we wouldn't even stow our lawnmower in.
We've realized that it helps a lot to work in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, because our goal is that every school we work with is actually put under coverage of the Ministry of Education. So we've sort of set up a three-pronged approach in order to achieve that. So we go with the Ministry of Education and visit various communities where they've identified needs. The second part is the community. We only work with communities that really want this. So oftentimes there is a structure, even though it might be makeshift palm leaves, whatever. The parents have really pitched together and the community is doing their best for their children.
They set up a community board, and we have a contract where all of the parents say what it is that they can contribute.
And then the third part is the school box part. So once we identify the schools, we go home to Canada and we share the proposals and we share the stories with our community there. We bring in the funds and then we come back and then we work with those three groups to build schools.
This is a very poor country. The majority of people living on less than $2 a day. Sometimes children simply don't have access to a school. Or if they do have access to a school, it's so many kilometers away through the woods, through the fields, that they simply can't get there.
What absolutely got me hooked was working with the children to help build the school, and they were going to be pupils in the school.
When you're in a survival mode, which is essentially what they've been in for the last 4 years in that school, it's hard to learn. Here they're going to be in a well-ventilated space. They've all got their own desks and chairs. They've got whiteboards. They've got rooms. And you see it on the faces of these kids. They're so excited about getting an education.
We know how to identify schools. We know how to execute it. And I think that's really our strength. And so I think that going forward, we're going to have a huge impact in Nicaragua and who knows, maybe beyond these borders.